So we've had a few days to sit with the new trailer released by EA for College Football 26. And there's been a lot of deep dives and a lot of details and things that people have been discussing that they noticed in the trailer itself when they went back and they watched the trailer. There's also been details and things leaked from content creators that EA actually flew out to play College Football 26, but I'm gonna go over a lot of the things that I've gathered from a couple of people in particular. One guy being Andy Staples from ON3, and also Kirk Benkirk, who actually tweeted out a bunch of tweets from EA's center, um, from his experience playing the game, and also some deleted tweets from him as well. So before we get into it, real quick, if you're here for the first time or you're returning and you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do so. Click that notification tab so you can stay up to speed with not only College Football 26, but Madden 26 details, tips, tricks, tutorials, and everything of that nature coming soon in the future. If you're not familiar with my content, I did a bunch of tutorials for College Football 25, as well as Madden, and a lot of other content as well. So again, if you're here for the first time or you're returning, hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification tab so you can stay up to speed on all updates and everything pertaining to College Football 26 and Madden 26 going forward. So first off, before I get into anything that Andy Staples and Kirk Benkirk had actually mentioned in their videos, well, Kirk Benkirk from his tweets and Andy Staples from his reaction video. One thing that people pointed out from the trailer, one significant detail, is that when the bands are actually on the field, their seats are empty in the stands. I'm not sure whether that was a thing in 25 or not, but if it is, and I didn't notice it, you guys didn't notice it, that's pretty dope that they actually took the time out to put emphasis on little details like that. And they lack a lot of the details as far as Madden is concerned, but with them showing that type of detail, that's pretty in depth, and that's pretty dope that they would do something like that, because that's not necessarily something in prior years and prior games that they would do. But the fact that they put emphasis on things of that nature, things of that kind of detail, with the bands being on the field, their seats being empty in the stands, is pretty amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into some of the things that Andy Staples from ON3 had mentioned in his first reaction video. This was the day that the trailer dropped. And some of the things that he mentioned was that last year when you were playing in South Carolina, they just had Sandstorm playing. But this year, South Carolina plays the theme from 2001 when they take the field. Then when you're about to kick off, Sandstorm starts playing. He also says if you're playing a game at the big house, between the third and fourth quarters, they're playing Mr. Brightside, and by the end of it, it's just the crowd singing Mr. Brightside, which again, this is all detail-oriented stuff. There's also a formation that Penn State runs, the gate formation, where they bring the left guard and the left tackle out wide, which the rules had to be changed for it because the game sees the players out wide and thinks they're eligible receivers, but then they had to put in the eligible number designation outside the tackle box so that those guys wouldn't be allowed to run routes, and they would do exactly what Penn State offensive linemen would do in that situation. So again, more attention to detail, more things being implemented into the game that weren't implemented before, and it's the little stuff. It's the little stuff like that that matters. Over 300 coaches, which means there are assistants as well, and he can verify that because he actually played the game, and he specifically pointed out the assistant coaches on Penn State, because I guess Penn State was the team that he was actually doing a lot of these tests with in his test experience playing the game. And he was mentioning the coaches. I forget the coaches' names, and I'm not big on college football coaches like that, except for if it's not the bigger coaches, I'm not too familiar with it. There's some assistants that I know, like Wink Martindale for Michigan, which I'm familiar with because of NFL, and I'm a big diehard NFL fan. But he did specify that there are real assistant coaches in the game, which is dope because we haven't had any assistant coaches in a football game like that, any real assistant coaches in a football game like this since like the 2000s when you were playing like Madden 2002, 2003, 2004 and stuff of that nature. You never had it in college football games because they never had the real coaches nor the real players until they actually just started coming back with college football. So the fact that they're bringing this back, and this gives me hope for Madden as well, that since you can get the license for all of these assistant coaches here, hopefully you can get the license for the assistant coaches in the NFL. Because I actually just made this rant in one of my episodes on my franchise rebuild in Madden on how I hate how even though you can build your coaching staff, you only have the real head coach and then all the assistants are generic coaches. And I was ranting that if we don't have the real coaches, at least give us the ability to edit the assistant coaches. And now, not long after I dropped that episode, we get this news from College Football 26 that there are going to be real assistant coaches in this game. When you get ready to start your dynasty, you can use an assistant coach to start that dynasty. Or if you want to start that dynasty with that team as that assistant coach, play a year, then get a job off of that year's performance that you did with that coach with another team, which might be the route that I take. I might switch it up this year when I do my dynasty rebuild. I might pick a good team and take an assistant coach from that team and then try to put on a great performance offensively with them, and then take a smaller school in the off season with that head coach and try to develop them and build them into something. So I don't know, we'll see, but it's intriguing and it's fun for people like me that are fully immersed in a game and like realism about the game and trying to run the game as a real franchise like in Madden or a real university would in real life. So that's definitely exciting. The whole them adding the 300 new coaches, assistants, and head coaches as well. He also says it's easier to play defense now. They brought in the physics-based tackling that was introduced to Madden. If you hit a guy up top, you might bounce off. If you hit him in the midsection, you might wrap up and take them down. But nonetheless, the physics-based tackling that they introduced in Madden here recently, they're introducing it now to College Football 26. Also, when running the ball, you can run through tackles a little better now with running backs. So I know a lot of y'all might be saying, well, there wasn't really a problem with breaking tackles last year in College Football 25. I don't necessarily think that it's just saying like breaking tackles in general for is like the computer, because a lot of people's issue was the computer was the one breaking all these tackles. You weren't ever able to break these tackles. Well, now what he's saying is it's a lot easier, or a little easier now, for you to break tackles as the running back. He did say another thing that he mentioned in this video that he was breaking down from his experience playing the game, is that he mentioned that how a lot of people like to play as different positions on a defense. You got some people that like to play in the secondary. You got some people that like to use the middle linebacker or any linebacker for that nature. And then there's some people that like to play on the defensive line. I never understood that one back in the day. I used to play the defensive line, but I like to have control over what the user is going to do with the receivers out in the open. So I like to control either the secondary or I like to control the linebacker, primarily the linebacker. Well, he said there is an incentive now for those who like to play with the defensive linemen, specifically like edge rushers and stuff. There's a new steering mechanic as an edge rusher where, depending on how good you are as a player, and I'm not saying like as a user, I'm talking about how good the defensive end is as a player. If you have a really good defensive end, you can do this. If your defensive end isn't that good, then chances are you're not going to really be able to have the ability to do this. But there is a steering mechanic that you can use with the joystick where you can steer the offensive lineman where you want that offensive lineman to go, whether it's in a passing formation or passing play situation, or if it's in a running play situation. Nonetheless, depending on how good that edge rusher is, using, I think it's the right stick, he said. I'm not too sure. I can't really remember that. But you could steer that offensive lineman wherever you wanted to steer him at before you use your move to get off of that offensive lineman. So that makes it better for those who do like to play with the edge rushers, the defensive line, defensive tackles, etc., and things of that nature. More detailed stuff. It says Clemson players entrance. They now get off the bus. They go down the hill, and they're led down the hill by Dabo Swinney, which, again, more attention to detail, things that people are there's minuscule things like that people are really looking heavily into. Like, I love the entrances and everything of that nature. I love all the intricate details, but I'm not too huge on it to where it's gonna take away from the game for me. My experience is more based on what are you doing for me in Dynasty mode? How in depth, how immersed is Dynasty mode? How realistic is it? So again, this is stuff that I'm pretty sure those out there who are big on these things, they'll be looking forward to things of that nature. As far as Dynasty is concerned, he wouldn't necessarily go into detail. You could tell there's a lot of things they told him he couldn't speak about. But he did say for the people that play Dynasty mode and enjoy playing Dynasty mode, they've done some things that make the experience easier to play for longer. They have some stuff that will make you enjoy playing it longer rather than being at a monotonous pace, which sometimes you could be in Dynasty mode. Again, another thing that I can't say really like speaks to me because I feel like I could have played like 25 seasons in Dynasty mode if you let me, but unfortunately, that's not the case. I can't play like that. I do have my own family. I do have a job that I work outside of this content creating nature. I did get enjoyment out of my experience playing, but I could say I could understand where he's coming from saying it could be a monotonous pace. There were things, like I mentioned in my wishlist video, there were things that EA could have done to make it more like in depth and everything, like, because it did seem like no matter how much I played and no matter how much enjoyment I was getting out of the game, it was kind of just like repetitive after a certain period of time. So you figure there were things that they could do to make it less monotonous like that. So he's saying that they did, and there were a good amount of things that they've done to make it a better experience, more enjoyable for longer. But you could tell he was holding back because there was things that EA wouldn't allow him to speak about when making this video. He also mentioned big detail things. Again, here we are, big detail things. He mentioned it was a big thing before, and I'm sure you all can attest to this, where there was memes, there was gifs going around of the cutscenes with the crowd, the fans, the cheerleaders, and things of that nature, where a lot of the faces, a lot of the appearances, a lot of the bodies were extremely repetitive. It was a lot of the same faces and things of that nature. Well, he's saying now they have 1,700 new heads for cheerleaders, fans, 200 new characters total. So there's going to be a lot more variety in those images when you see those cutscenes of fans, cheerleaders, etc. So I look forward to seeing how that's going to look. Again, 1,700 new heads, 200 total new bodies or characters, should I say. We'll see. We'll see. Little details like in South Carolina last year, fans were waving black towels. And people complain that there should be white towels being waved. Well, now they've made simple little changes like now they're waving white towels in those said games instead of black towels. Entrances have now changed. Now there's not, and I don't mean change like in a sense that people's entrances have changed to reflect more of real life, which I'm sure they have. But what he's saying is the entrances have changed in a sense that now there's multiple entrances. Now you have big game entrances and you have a regular game entrance, which that I definitely look forward to seeing, because that's another thing that was repetitive about the game, that when you be playing, it'd be the same entrance no matter what, no matter if you were in a big game or not. But now they have an entrance specifically for big games and an entrance for regular season games or just regular games, period, for every team. So I again, something I want to see. I want to get hands on and see for myself. But that's exciting news. That's something really exciting to hear. He also says when you're playing a season, the lighting will change based on the actual time and place. Like a 6 o'clock in November in Eugene, Oregon looks a lot different from a 6 o'clock in November in Boston. You'll get sunsets at various times, etc. And some of the sunset animations look amazing. Like third quarter at the Rose Bowl animation is completely insane. So I can't wait to personally see this for myself. That's going to be interesting. Like, again, a West Coast game at 6 o'clock is not going to look like an East Coast game at 6 o'clock. So the fact that they're showing such detail in little things like that, that makes me excited. And I will say Andy Staples, his take on what his experience was playing college football 26 made me a lot more excited and a lot more believable than a lot of these other content creators' reaction and things that they were saying. Because when you see his video and see him talk about some of the things that they implemented in college football 26, you can tell that he's 100% genuine and he's not just gassing you up. Whereas a lot of these other content creators, we're about to get into here in a little bit here shortly, briefly. But it seems like some of the things that they were saying, the way they were saying it is just like they're just saying this to really get you hyped up, to really try to sell this game because EA's trying to they brought them in to try to sell this game. So I don't know. This one, though, his take, his video, his reaction, it seems more genuine, more authentic. It makes me excited. Makes me the most excited about the game versus some of the other stuff that I had been seeing. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into Ben Kirk's tweets, his tweets that are still available, and also his deleted tweets. And then I'm going to go ahead and give my final reaction of this deep dive of some of the things that I've gathered from the creators and things that's out there, period. So one of his tweets, he's talking about the lighting, which I'm not going to get into that because I just got done discussing Andy Staples' take on the lighting of the game. So you don't need a second opinion. So I'm not even going to break down that tweet. He also said you can no longer pick the ball off if your defender's eyes aren't facing the ball. So no more times when your DB is trailing a receiver and you can just jump up and pick the ball off. Now, this I'd have to see for myself because this is another one of those things that I've seen EA over time say that they've made adjustments like this on defense to be able to make it harder for you to do this, or made adjustments on offense so it's harder on defense to do this, but then you get the game and it's pretty much the same thing. So that's something I have to see for myself. That's it of his standard tweets that are still available up there for you to see. Now let's get into the deleted tweets. He talks about the QB DNA, and he says signature QB holds, full animation arm angles on the run, QB ball carrier moves in the pocket, which are shown in the trailer, QB height changes, vision, and passing windows. So my gist of it, first of all, the ball carrier moves in the backfield is awesome, which I hate the fact that they actually made him delete this tweet. I understand it because he did give out a little bit more detail around other things, but the whole ball carrier moves in the backfield, you showed that in the trailer. So again, I get it because of the other stuff he revealed, but we saw the ball carrier moves in the trailer. But that is dope because that's always been one thing that aggravated me, not just with like college football, but playing Madden the last decade and a half or whatever. When you're in the backfield with the quarterback, even if you pull the trigger to take off and run with the quarterback, you still couldn't do ball carrier moves. They would make you pass the ball. So now that they're finally giving you the ability to, when you take off and run, you can do ball carrier moves like spin, juke, etc. in the backfield. That's going to be game changing, and that's going to be so clutch. QB height changing, the vision and passing windows, that's going to be crazy. So I'm assuming if you have a smaller quarterback now in the game, that it's going to be more difficult to make certain passes or pass over the offensive line, etc. Things of that nature. But it's intriguing. It's intriguing to see how these details end up panning out. He mentioned completely new player movement. He says a combination of the best parts of college football 25 and Madden 25, more explosive. 4-2 feels like 4-2, which we'll have to see for ourselves exactly what that looks like or what that means, because again, like I mentioned a little while ago, we've seen them say things like this in the past, and then you get the game and it's the same repetitive thing with 99 speed receivers completely burning DBs, even with shading over the top. So this is something we truly will see. And finally, he said his honest opinion. He says college football 26 will be one of the best games ever created. They took community feedback, implemented the changes, went further in depth, made navigating the game more efficient, and amplified the authentic feel of the schools. It's clear the team loves their job. Now, I'll preface that by saying this. As nice as all of this sounds, as great as all of this sounds, part of these creators' jobs, as guys EA flew out to play the game, is to hype up and sell the game for them. Now, are they overhyping and overselling because EA is paying them or giving them incentive to? Maybe, possibly. But that's not to say that EA hasn't made some kind of significant change. Only time will tell. As more info comes out from EA themselves, there's still a lot more I need and want to see. And again, we won't know anything further until EA starts leaking more information themselves. Once they start doing these breakdowns in depth on each aspect of the game, whether it's Dynasty, Ultimate Team, Road to Glory, etc. But there's still a lot of stuff that I need to see and want to see. If you saw my deep dive video, you heard me talk about a lot of things that college football is lacking that they could bring back or implement in the game, period, for a first time that could make this game over the top. So, yes, as exciting as a lot of this stuff is, and how excited I am to see this stuff and get hands-on with it, I got to see more. I do have to see more. I want to see if you're going to bring in a spring training game. I want to see if you're going to bring in weekly training during Dynasty like you have weekly training in franchise mode. Man, I want to see if you're going to be able to upgrade your players physically yourself, not just at the end of the season, the computer doing the training results for you. I want to see the weekly training being implemented for the players and you being able to physically upgrade your players yourself. I want to see if they actually bring the option to export and import your draft classes. It's a lot of little things that I mentioned. Like I said, again, if you haven't seen my college football 26 wish list video, go ahead and click the link in the top of the video. I'll go ahead and link that at the top for you to click and check out. But I broke down a lot of features that EA could bring back and also EA could add to the game to make it better. I'm not going to drag this on too much longer because it's been long enough already. But again, just like I mentioned early on in the video, if you're here for the first time or you're returning and you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do so. Click that notification tab so you can stay up to speed with more future college football 26 content and Madden 26 as well. Again, I appreciate you all for tuning in. That's been my time. Till next time.